Have you ever wondered why a dry fly hackle lays on edge when you wind it onto the shank of a hook? In other words, perpendicular to the shank of the hook. Well, much has to do with the shape of the feather. I'm going to demonstrate with a feather that will respond very similar to a dry fly hackle. This happens to be the upper tail covert feather to a peacock. It has a very similar shape to the rachis, or the shaft, of a dry fly hackle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hackle, I'm going to lay it against the shank of my hook, and I'm going to try to keep these barbs parallel with the shank of the hook. Let's see what happens as I put pressure down as if I'm winding the hackle. I messed up, didn't I? What's happening? It just won't lay parallel, will it? It's determined to turn up onto its edge. It's because the nature of the feather is shaped in such a way that it just has to go up onto its edge. Well, what if we change this smooth foundation to perhaps something a little bit more coarse and rough and uneven? What if we had twisted winds of thread with gaps and valleys in between? What do you think would happen when this feather was wound over the top of those rough spots? Let me show you. I'm going to turn this vise out of the way, and I've prepared a simple demonstration with an ink pen. You notice that what I've got is a shoestring wound as if it were flat winds of thread. Then I took that shoestring and I just simply twisted it, and I continued to wind. Since those are wound in the conventional direction, the twist created in the winds around are clockwise twists. Because of that, the thread wants to migrate, as you can see these little jumps in here, toward the eye of the hook, which would be over here. It has these separations, lumps, valleys, and so forth, which in turn create rough spots for that feather to naturally lay down into at odd angles. This will provide a much better, more vertical, more perpendicular hackle barb extending out from the shank of the hook. This will give you a much rougher surface. Something to think about next time you wind a dry fly hackle on. In spite of the fact that the foundation winds in this photo used a 3/0 176 denier polyester thread, I was still able to get a smooth enough foundation that the hackle winds on this rooster hackle are reasonably consistent, fairly tight to one another, and you notice the barbs extend out straight 90 degrees to the shank of the hook, which is the nature of this feather. Let's compare that to the next photo. In this photo we have the same thread used, but it's twisted, making an uneven surface. You'll notice that the hackle winds want to follow the angle of those twists and turns and valleys that were created with that twisted thread. Whether it be a thread foundation or a materials foundation that the hackle is wound over, the same applies. If it's an uneven surface, you're going to get an inconsistent wind with your rooster hackle. If it's an even surface, you have the capability of providing an excellent surface for consistent winds.